Hi, my name is Karina Akidal. I'm the managing editor of Canadian Auto Dealer. I'm here with Jessi Kessel of Auto Careers Group, a Canadian automotive recruitment agency. So, Jessi, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the situation in Canada right now. What are you seeing?
Hi, well, thanks for having me here virtually. um, the situation is not a good one. That's a given. We've seen massive layoffs, from manufacturers to the vendors to the dealers and all companies in between. And I have to say that, this has never hit home um, how how it has this time around. I have a husband who works for a dealership. We're both in automotive, and just like everybody else, we were watching the news every day. Especially around the time of what's going to happen next. Are the dealers going to stay open? Are they an essential service? Which departments are? So we were just hanging on like everybody else. Unfortunately, he was laid off, and so we're living this day in and day out. And in talking to dealers and watching the news and doing this daily, chat with them, they're telling us that they were faced with a lot of hard decisions that they had to make very quickly in order to sustain the business. They had to, like every business, lower expenses pretty quickly, looking at all sorts of things within the dealership, one being payroll, and that resulted in a lot of layoffs. Most of them were just across the board, all departments, and the number we're hearing is well over 50% were layoffs. So we didn't hear a lot of them that terminated employment, but we did hear that there were a lot of temporary layoffs that did result.
So, definitely not a very ideal situation. Now, I'm
Not
curious to know, what is the agency doing to help dealers amid the crisis right now?
That's a great question. Like everybody else, we were in shock at first. You kind of go through those phases of emotions, and we all had to come to the realization that that revenue wasn't going to be the same. And coming to accept that that's not in our control anymore. This is what the situation is, and we have to accept it for what it is. And so, one thing that our team did decide on was following our core values, which was always to serve our automotive community and to help any way that we can. And this is the time that we can actually showcase that, who we are as a company and how we're really able to help with the skill sets and the resources that we have for free. So we came up with a couple of different things for the people that have been affected by layoffs. We came up with a resume review program. And so people that are finding themselves in a situation that they weren't expecting to be in the first place now have to go and dig up an old resume possibly, or start from scratch, right? So we're helping them to work through that, and how to highlight their accomplishments and a few other tips and tricks that we can provide, as well as helping the dealer, the employer, in assessing their people. Going back to the drawing board and going, okay, well, who do we have right now? What are their skill sets? And thinking about when this is all over and the government says, okay, we can reopen again, what is that going to look like? Who are we going to bring back first? Is it going to be in phases? And they're talking about possibly consolidating some roles as well, from administrative roles to BDC, sales, and perhaps some other ones.
Are you able to provide me with even more detail on what you've been advising dealers to do? Maybe give us a bit more information.
Well, sure. I mean, I think the number one thing is that they have to continue to really communicate with their staff, especially the ones that have been laid off, and that they do want to recall back when this is all said and done. because sometimes it's out of sight, out of mind. We're not seeing each other on a daily basis like we used to. And what happens there when there's a lack of communication, people automatically become fearful and they assume the worst, right? Especially in times like this where everything is kind of up in the air and no one, is certain as to what's going to happen. So that continued communication is really going to be key in the retention of your people coming out of this. The other thing is planning. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So we have the time now. We should utilize that time wisely to really plan what we're doing now and what we're going to do coming out of this. So taking a look at a lot of different things within the operations of the dealership and being more innovative, right? And thinking outside the box and doing things that maybe we weren't used to doing before, and reassessing employees, because at the end of the day, that's what we have, right? It's each other. So we need to make sure that we nurture that during this time and assess what everybody's skill set is coming out of this, so we can better position people for success with the new reality that we may have at the other end.
Thanks, Jessi. Is there any other comments or additional advice that you'd like to offer dealers that you think Canadian dealers should know or need to know about?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we have recently, just based on feedback from the dealers that we've been talking to and from our current clients that we have across Canada, there is one thing that keeps coming up, which is assessing the employees that they currently have, possibly to consolidate some roles, and helping them in what we call a state interview, where we kind of just go through different questions in a usual interview and really figure out and assess maybe some of the hidden talents that they have or interests that they have, and how they can step up and offer more of their skill sets to the dealer. And then also for the people that have been laid off, that might not actually get recalled back, they're going to be in a position where, maybe they were hopeful of having a job coming out of this, and then they come to realize that, they've been terminated. They're going to need to find another position. And to ease that transition, we're offering dealers to partner with us, so that we can better support those certain people that will be faced with a termination coming out of this, and helping them with their resume and with a job seeking process that we have.
Some really great advice. Well, thank you, Jessi, so much for taking the time to do this interview. And I wish you and your family good health and safety during this difficult period.